Hello and welcome to our channel, where we teach English through powerful and emotional stories. Today we are starting a very special story, the real-life journey of Queen Elizabeth II, one of the most famous and respected women in the world. In this story, you will learn about her life, her struggles, her love, her royal duties, her family, her power, her heart, and everything in between. We will explain it all in easy, simple English so that you can enjoy the story and also improve your English. This story is perfect for beginners, so don't worry if your English is not strong yet. Just relax and enjoy. So stay with us, listen carefully, and if you love learning English through stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more beautiful stories like this. Now, let's begin part 1. The beginning of a queen. The early life of Elizabeth. The story of Queen Elizabeth II begins before she was a queen, before the crown, before the palaces, before the power. She was just a little girl named Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor. She was born on April 21st, 1926, in a lovely house in London, the capital of England. She was not born in a palace, not in a royal castle. She was born at her grandfather's house at 17 Bruton Street in Mayfair, London. Her father was Prince Albert, and her mother was Lady Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon. When Elizabeth was born, no one thought she would become queen. Her father was not a king, and she was not expected to sit on the throne. Her family called her Lilibet, a sweet nickname, because little Elizabeth had trouble saying her full name as a baby. As a child, Elizabeth was quiet, polite, and always serious. She had beautiful blue eyes, golden hair, and a face full of curiosity. She loved horses, dogs, and books. She was very close to her younger sister, Princess Margaret, who was born in 1930, 4 years after Elizabeth. The two girls spent their days playing together in the garden, dancing, singing, and listening to fairy tales. Their parents raised them with love and discipline. They were part of the royal family, but still they lived a simple and private life, not like the kings and queens in the movies. Elizabeth's father, Prince Albert, later became King George VI, but that happened in a very unexpected way. In 1936, something happened that changed Elizabeth's life forever. Her uncle, King Edward VIII, decided to leave the throne. He wanted to marry a woman named Wallis Simpson, who was divorced. The royal rules said he could not marry her and remain king, so he gave up the crown. Elizabeth's father, Prince Albert, became the next king. He was given a new name, King George VI. That meant Elizabeth was now the next in line to be queen. She was just 10 years old, but suddenly she became the future queen of the United Kingdom. The life of games, dolls, and bedtime stories was over. A new life of training, duty, and royal lessons had begun. Elizabeth did not go to a regular school like other children. Instead, she studied at home. She was taught by private teachers who helped her learn history, law, French, literature, and the British Constitution. She was also trained in public speaking, manners, and how to speak with leaders and handle royal duties. Her mother also taught her how to behave like a true lady, with grace and strength. From a young age, Elizabeth was very serious, calm, and wise beyond her years. Her teachers were shocked by how focused and disciplined she was. She always listened carefully and worked hard. She also loved animals, especially horses and corgi dogs. She got her first pony at the age of 4, and she would ride horses every chance she got. When World War II started in 1939, Elizabeth was just 13 years old. It was a scary time. The skies were dark, bombs were falling, and families were afraid. Many children were sent away from London to stay safe. Even Elizabeth and Margaret were moved to Windsor Castle. Even though she was just a teenager, Elizabeth wanted to help. She made her first public radio broadcast in 1940, when she spoke to the children of Britain and said, "When peace comes, remember it will be for us, the children of today, to make the world of tomorrow a better and happier place." Her voice was soft, but her words were strong. She began learning about leadership, responsibility, and courage. In 1945, Elizabeth joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service, ATS, a women's branch of the British Army. She trained as a mechanic and truck driver. Yes, the future Queen could fix engines and drive military vehicles. She wore a uniform, worked hard, and wanted to be just like any other woman helping in the war. This made her the first female royal family member to serve in the military. The public loved her even more. She was not just a princess in a castle. She was a young woman of action, discipline, and heart. During this time, another beautiful thing was growing in her life: love. Part 2: Love, Marriage, and Becoming the Queen. Elizabeth met Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark for the first time in 1934 at a family wedding. She was just 8 years old, and Philip was 13. At that time, no one thought much about it. But 5 years later, in 1939, something special happened. Elizabeth was 13 and Philip was 18. Elizabeth was 13 and Philip was 18. He was tall, strong, full of confidence, with blue eyes and a cheeky smile. He was a naval cadet training to serve in the British Royal Navy. Elizabeth and her parents visited the Royal Naval College in Dartmouth, and Philip was asked to show her around. They spent some time together, and something inside Elizabeth changed that day. From that moment, she fell in love with him. She returned home and started writing letters to Philip. He replied. Their friendship grew slowly. Elizabeth's heart began to dream of a future with him. Even during the Second World War, they continued to write letters. Philip was fighting in the Navy, while Elizabeth was learning to be a royal leader. But in their hearts, a quiet love was growing. Now this love story was not simple. Philip was born into a royal family, but his life was not easy. He was born on June 10th, 1921. On a kitchen table in Greece, his family was royal but poor and exiled. They had to leave Greece when he was a baby. Philip's mother was Princess Alice, and his father was Prince Andrew of Greece. But their family had many problems. His mother became mentally unwell and was sent to a hospital. His father left the family and lived in France. Philip moved from country to country, living in Germany, France, and Britain, often without his parents. He was raised by relatives, sent to different schools, and lived a lonely childhood. When he joined the British Navy, he finally found a place to belong. But even then, he had no money, no stable home, and no strong royal position. So when Elizabeth told her family she wanted to marry him, many royal advisors said, "No, he is not royal enough. He has no money. He is too rough and loud. He is not British enough." But Elizabeth was calm and firm. She knew what she wanted. She told her father, King George VI, that she loved Philip and would not change her mind. Her father respected her feelings. He told her she could marry Philip, but only if she waited until she was 21. So she waited for years. In July 1947, Elizabeth turned 21 years old. That same year, on July 9th, she and Philip became officially engaged. Philip gave her a beautiful ring made from diamonds that belonged to his mother. The news spread across the world. The future queen was getting married. Their royal wedding took place on November 20th, 1947, at Westminster Abbey, London. It was just 2 years after World War II had ended, and people were still healing. The wedding gave them hope, joy, and something to celebrate. Elizabeth wore a beautiful white satin gown designed by Norman Hartnell. It had 10,000 pearls and a long train. She even used ration coupons to pay for the dress, just like any other woman at the time. Philip had to give up his Greek and Danish titles and become a British citizen. He was given a new title, His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh. They looked happy, young, and full of love. The nation watched. The world smiled. After the wedding, Elizabeth and Philip moved into Clarence House, a home in London. They tried to live a normal life, as normal as royals could be. In 1948, Elizabeth gave birth to their first child, Prince Charles. He would one day become king. 2 years later, in 1950, they had their daughter, Princess Anne. Philip and Elizabeth were loving parents. Philip taught the children to sail, fish, and live a strong life. Elizabeth told bedtime stories and gave hugs. At this time, Elizabeth was not yet queen. Her father, King George VI, was still king, but his health was getting worse. He smoked too much and had serious health problems. Elizabeth knew her life was about to change. In 1952, Elizabeth and Philip went on a royal tour to Kenya, a country in Africa. It was part of the British Empire. They stayed in a beautiful wooden lodge high in the trees, where you could watch elephants and wild animals. It was during this peaceful stay, on February 6, 1952, that Elizabeth got the news. Her father, King George VI, had died. She was now the new Queen of the United Kingdom. She was just 25 years old, standing under the trees in Africa, wearing a simple dress, holding binoculars to look at animals, and in that moment, she became Queen Elizabeth II. Elizabeth returned to London immediately. The world watched her plain land. She walked down the steps, not as a princess, but as the new queen. She looked calm, sad, and strong. The Prime Minister and other royal leaders greeted her. She had lost her father and gained a crown, all in the same moment. She moved into Buckingham Palace, the official home of the monarch. Her life was now filled with meetings, ceremonies, speeches, and royal duties. On June 2, 1953, her coronation was held at Westminster Abbey. It was the first royal coronation shown on television. Millions of people across the world watched the 27-year-old queen wear the crown of St. Edward and sit on the throne. She held a golden orb, a scepter, and made a promise. "I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service." And she meant every word. Now she was a young mother, a wife, and the queen of many nations all at once. Philip had to adjust to. He had to walk 2 steps behind her wife, something that was difficult for him in the beginning. He had to give up his Navy career, which he loved, but he did it because he loved her. Behind the palace doors, they were like any other couple. They laughed, argued, supported each other, and shared quiet moments. They spent evenings reading, watching TV, or walking together in the gardens. They wrote notes to each other, had breakfast together whenever they could, and always respected each other. Roles Part 3. The life of a young queen. Power, parenthood, and public duty. She ruled not just the United Kingdom, but also Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and many countries in Africa, the Caribbean, and Asia. These were part of the British Empire, which was slowly changing into something new called the Commonwealth, a group of nations linked by history, friendship, and cooperation. So her job wasn't just about Britain. She had to understand many cultures, travel to many places, and connect with many people. She worked every single day, including holidays. She read official papers daily in a red leather box, even on Christmas. Every morning she met with advisors, ministers, or world leaders. Every evening she read reports and wrote notes. She couldn't vote. She couldn't give personal opinions. She couldn't even choose where to live freely. She belonged to the people now. But behind palace doors, she was also a mother and a wife. Let's talk about her family life in detail. She had 4 children, each very different. First, Prince Charles, born 1948, quiet, sensitive, thoughtful. Grew up knowing he would one day be king. This was not easy for him. Second, Princess Anne, born 1950, strong, independent, and sporty, loved horses, and didn't care much about fashion or fame. Third, Prince Andrew, born 1960, charming, bold, and fun-loving, became a helicopter pilot in the Navy. Fourth, Prince Edward, born 1964, kind, shy, and artistic, loved theatre and film. Elizabeth loved her children deeply, but her schedule was always full. She tried to spend mornings with them, have breakfast when possible, and attend special events. But royal duties often pulled her away. Philip helped a lot with parenting. He taught the kids discipline, confidence, and courage. He pushed them to be strong. Elizabeth and Philip were married for 73 years, one of the longest royal marriages in history. They were very different people. Elizabeth was calm, quiet, and serious. Philip was energetic, blunt, and had a big sense of humor. But they balanced each other perfectly. Philip made her laugh when things got hard. Elizabeth gave him love and respect. They wrote notes to each other every day. He called her Lily. She called him my strength and stay. They had little traditions, evening walks, afternoon tea, and picnics in the Scottish countryside. They both loved dogs, horses, and nature. Their favourite place was Balmoral Castle in Scotland. There, they wore simple clothes, cooked food themselves, and enjoyed family time away from the cameras. Let's talk about her fashion and personality, because many people are curious. Queen Elizabeth was known for her bright-coloured coats, matching hats, and handbags. Why did she wear such bright colours? So people can see me, she once said. She believed that when someone travels far to see the Queen, they should be able to spot her from a distance. She wanted people to feel seen and respected. She always wore pearls, small gloves, and black shoes. She didn't follow trends, but she had her own royal style. Her personality was very disciplined, always on time, quietly funny. She loved small jokes and pranks. Private, she never showed too much emotion in public. Strong-minded, once she decided something, she rarely changed her mind. Loyal to her family, her country, and her people. Even queens face challenges, and Elizabeth had many. Let's talk about the problems in her family. 1980s and 1990s, a time of storms. Prince Charles and Princess Diana got married in 1981. At first, it looked like a fairy tale, but behind the scenes, things were not going well. Charles was in love with another woman, Camilla Parker. Diana felt alone and unhappy. Their marriage slowly broke. In 1992, 3 of her children had marriage problems. Charles and Diana separated. Anne got divorced. Andrew also separated from his wife. That year, Windsor Castle caught fire. The Queen said 1992 was her annus horribilis, Latin for horrible year. Then came a tragedy that shook the world. On August 31st, 1997, Princess Diana died in a car crash in Paris. The world was in shock. People cried openly on the streets. Flowers were left outside Buckingham Palace in piles. But the Queen did not make a public statement immediately. She stayed in Scotland with her grandsons, Prince William and Prince Harry, who had just lost their mother. People got angry. They said the Queen didn't care. But in truth, she was trying to protect her grandsons and help them grieve in peace. Later, she gave a live speech on TV. She looked straight into the camera and said, "As a grandmother, I say from my heart, I admire Diana. She was an exceptional and gifted human being." That moment softened hearts. People understood her pain. In the 2000s, Elizabeth became a grandmother and great-grandmother. She had many young faces around her. She was still working every day, attending events, hosting world leaders, giving speeches, opening schools, hospitals, and museums, meeting people from all walks of life. She met 14 different prime ministers during her reign, from Winston Churchill to Boris Johnson. She also met every American president, from Harry Truman to Joe Biden, except one. She traveled more than 1 million miles, visited over 100 countries, and never complained. Her Diamond Jubilee in 2012. The world celebrated her Diamond Jubilee, 60 years as Queen. Crowds cheered, flags waved, concerts were held. The Queen smiled. She had become more than just a queen. She was a grandmother to a nation, a symbol of continuity, wisdom, and grace. Part 4. The later years, a queen of strength, heartbreak, and grace. The 21st century began, and Elizabeth was no longer a young queen. She was now an elderly woman, still strong, still smiling, but with many years of experience behind her eyes. She had ruled for over 50 years by the time the 2000s arrived. Think about that. The world had changed. Televisions had become smartphones. Horses had become helicopters. Letters had become emails. Men walked on the moon. Wars had ended. New ones had begun. And yet, Elizabeth was still there, standing tall. One of the sweetest parts of her later years was her relationship with her grandchildren. She was no longer just the queen to them. She was Granny. She had 8 grandchildren, and each one brought her joy in a special way. One, Prince William, quiet, thoughtful, the future king. She had private lunches with him to guide him gently. To Prince Harry, energetic, emotional, rebellious, she had a soft spot for him. They laughed a lot together. 3. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, sweet, stylish, emotional. She admired their kindness and creativity. For Peter and Zara, from Princess Anne, Zara was into horses, just like her grandmother. They spent time together riding in the countryside. 5. Lady Louise and James, youngest of all, children of Prince Edward. Elizabeth often read books with Louise and taught her about royal history. She wrote birthday cards for them, gave them small, thoughtful gifts, sometimes funny, sometimes homemade. Her Christmas traditions were very special. At Sandringham House, the entire family gathered. They sang carols, played silly games, ate turkey dinner with pudding. Elizabeth would give a speech and smile at everyone, always wearing a sparkly brooch or her famous pearl necklace. She may have been queen of a nation, but in that living room, she was just Granny. Even in her 80s and 90s, Elizabeth lived a very structured and disciplined life. Let's walk through a typical day in her later years. 7:30 a.m. Wake up. Her maid would bring tea, Earl Grey, and biscuits. She liked silence in the mornings. 8 a.m. Bathe, dress. Always neatly with a special outfit prepared the day before, and review the day's schedule. 8:30 a.m. Breakfast, often simple, toast, jam, scrambled eggs, sometimes fish. 9 a.m. Read official papers in the red box. Las 11 al tom. To 1 p.m. Meet guests, ministers, ambassadors, or people receiving awards. 1 p.m. Light lunch. She enjoyed grilled fish or chicken with salad. 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Walk in the garden or ride her pony, even in her 90s. 5 p.m. tea time, her favorite moment. She loved scones, jam, and a good cup of Darjeeling tea. 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. dinner, usually with close family. 9 p.m. watch a little TV. She liked crime dramas and horse races. 10:30 p.m. read or write in her diary, then go to sleep. Even at 90, she didn't rest much. She believed, if I'm alive, I must serve. Now we come to one of the most emotional parts of her life, the loss of her beloved husband, Prince Philip, in April 2021. After 73 years of marriage, passed away peacefully at 99 years old. They had been together since she was 13. She was now 94. That day, the palace announced, "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty, the Queen, announces the death of her beloved husband." The world cried, but no one felt it like she did. His funeral was small and quiet due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the world saw a heartbreaking image, the Queen sitting alone, dressed in black, with her head bowed in silence. No tears, no words, just grief. She once said, "Grief is the price we pay for love." After that, she spent more time alone, but she still worked. She still smiled. She still showed up, because that's who she was. Now let's talk about a modern challenge. In 2020, Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle announced they were stepping away from royal duties. It shocked the world. People called it legit. Later, Harry and Meghan gave a TV interview where they talked about their struggles in the royal family, especially about race, mental health, and media pressure. Some things they said hurt the Queen, but she responded not with anger, but with dignity. The palace released a statement. The issues raised are concerning. While some recollections may vary, they will be taken very seriously. Harry, Meghan, and Archie will always be much loved members of the family. This showed the world something powerful. Even in conflict, Elizabeth chose kindness. She believed in family first, always. In 2022, Queen Elizabeth made history. She became the first British monarch ever to celebrate a platinum jubilee, 70 years on the throne. The nation celebrated for 4 days. There were street parties, concerts, and fireworks. But her health was weak. She couldn't attend every event. Still, she made a surprise appearance on the palace balcony, wearing a light green coat and hat. She smiled at the crowd, waving gently. Her eyes sparkled with peace. That moment meant so much to people. She was 96. She had ruled longer than anyone, and she was still standing. After the Jubilee, her health slowly declined. She moved to Balmoral Castle, her favourite place, the quiet Scottish countryside, where she had spent childhood summers. She spent her last days in peace, surrounded by nature, staff, and some close family members. Part 5, the final chapter. The Queen's last years and the Crown's new era. But behind the smiles, the Queen's health was declining. She had mobility issues and stopped attending many events in person. Still, she continued to meet people privately, including her prime ministers. In September 2022, she met the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, just 2 days before her death. Even at the very end, she was doing her duty. On September 8, 2022, Queen Elizabeth II passed away peacefully at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. She was 96 years old. The news shook the world. For many people, she'd been the Queen their entire lives. It was hard to imagine the world without her. People cried in the streets. They left flowers outside Buckingham Palace. Bells rang across the country. The Queen's coffin was taken from Balmoral to Edinburgh, then to London. Thousands waited in long lines, sometimes for 20 hours, just to say goodbye. Her funeral was watched by billions. It was one of the most viewed events in history. After her passing, her eldest son Charles became King Charles III. He had waited longer than any heir in history. He was already 73 years old when he became king. His wife Camilla became queen consort. Many people had different opinions about King Charles. Some still remembered his past, especially his marriage to Princess Diana. But many were also ready to accept him as king, and they hoped he would carry on his mother's legacy of stability and service. After Queen Elizabeth's death, many changes happened. Prince William became the Prince of Wales, the title that his father Charles had held for so many years. William and his wife Catherine Kate are now the most popular members of the royal family. Prince Harry, Queen Elizabeth's grandson, lives in the US with his wife Meghan. They stepped away from royal duties and gave interviews that created big headlines. Their decision caused a lot of debate and even tension within the family. The royal family is now smaller, and the roles are more focused. King Charles wants a more modern monarchy, with fewer people working as official royals. Queen Elizabeth's legacy, Queen Elizabeth II, was more than just a queen. She was a symbol of stability, tradition, and strength. She ruled during World War II, the Cold War, the rise of technology, the COVID-19 pandemic, the independence of many countries from the British Empire. She ruled with grace, never giving political opinions, never creating drama. Always calm, always dignified. She met 14 US presidents, more than 170 world leaders, and saw 15 prime ministers in her time. She was the face of Britain, but also a grandmother to the world. People respected her for her discipline, her kindness, her sense of humor, and her sense of duty. Queen Elizabeth II was born into royalty, yes, but she didn't choose to be queen. The crown was given to her when she was just 25. She was not ready. She was not trained like a soldier. She didn't go to university. She was young. She was scared. She had doubts, but still, she stood up. She learned. She grew. She worked hard every single day, and she never stopped, not for 70 years. She lost her father. She lost her husband. She lost many friends. She saw wars, hate, judgment, mistakes, criticism, and even betrayal. But she always stayed calm, silent, and strong. She kept her promise. She said, at 21, "My whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service." And she kept that promise till her very last breath. She was not just the Queen of England. She was the Queen of many countries at the same time. Yes, more than 30 countries have had Queen Elizabeth II as their queen at some point in history. Isn't that incredible? Now, let's go on a little world tour together, to visit the countries where Queen Elizabeth was not just a guest, but their real queen. What does it mean to be queen of many countries? Let's make it easy. Queen Elizabeth didn't sit on 30 different thrones. She didn't fly from one place to another every week. These countries were called the Commonwealth realms. That means they accepted her as their head of state, their royal figure. She was like the grandmother of the country, loved, respected, and symbolic. Each country had its own government, laws, and prime ministers. But the Queen was their royal head, shown on their money, honored in their events, and visited as a royal guest. Let's meet the 15 countries she ruled before her death in 2022. 1. United Kingdom, of course, her home. 2. Canada, yes, the Queen of Snow and Maple Leaves. 3. Australia, good day, the Queen ruled down too. 4. New Zealand, the Queen of beautiful mountains and sheep. 5. Jamaica, she ruled this island of music and sunshine. 6. Bahamas, she visited these dreamy beaches as their queen. 7. Grenada, another Caribbean beauty under her crown. 8. Papua New Guinea, far in the Pacific, still loyal to her. 9. Solomon Islands, a group of islands that called her queen. 10. St. Lucia, Caribbean love for the Queen. 11. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, another gem in the ocean. 12. Belize, a small country in Central America that loved her. 13. Antigua and Barbuda, 2 islands, 1 queen. 14. St. Kitts and Nevis, tiny but royal. 15. Tuvalu, a very small island nation with a very big heart for her. What changed over time? Some countries stopped being monarchies. For example, Barbados said goodbye to the Queen in 2021 and became a republic. Others, like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and South Africa, had her as queen in early years, but later became republics too. But Queen Elizabeth always respected their decisions. She believed in friendship, not control. Even after some countries removed her as queen, they still stayed in the Commonwealth family, which means they respected her and remained connected. Did she visit these countries? Yes. And people came out in millions to see her. She visited Canada over 20 times, Australia 16 times, India, Africa, Caribbean nations, and many more. She met children, danced with locals, and smiled for hours. People didn't just see her as a queen, they saw her as part of their lives. Why was this so special? Because no one else in history ruled so many countries peacefully for so long. She wasn't just a queen. She was a symbol of unity, friendship, and continuity for millions of people around the world for over 70 years. Imagine having your face on coins, stamps, and school walls in 15 countries at once. That was Queen Elizabeth II. Now what can we learn from her? We don't need to be kings or queens to be great. We don't need a crown to be powerful. We don't need millions of people watching us to be special. What we need is something the Queen had: discipline, kindness, patience, strength, dedication, and heart. She showed us that a strong person doesn't always speak loudly. Sometimes they just show up every day and do their work quietly. She taught us that duty is not about showing off, it's about showing up. She reminded us that even if the world changes, values like honesty, loyalty, service, and grace will always be respected. So, dear listener, here is your crown. Now be loyal to your dreams. Be kind even when others are not. Stay strong when life tests you. Keep your promises and do your best, even when no one is watching. Because you can be royal in your own way. You may never wear a real crown, but you can wear a crown of respect, honor, and character, and that's more powerful than gold. The queen is gone, but her story lives on, and now your story begins. Make it great, make it honest, make it unforgettable, because you never know, one day the world might tell your story too.